It all started in an undisclosed cave somewhere in Africa, then appearing sporadically around the world. It was the world's first art form left by our ancestors of millennia long since gone. As humans progress, so does our art. The way we create it, the way we preserve it, the way we enjoy it, and the way we collect it. You could have it in your living room, perhaps even in a museum, or it ends up in storage because there's just no room for it. That is, until the blockchain. You know, Bitcoin, Ethereum, smart contracts, which brings us to non-fungible tokens, otherwise known as NFTs. NFTs are recorded on the blockchain, which is the underpinning infrastructure for cryptocurrencies. But unlike fungible cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, NFTs are non-fungible, which means they are unique and cannot be altered or replaced. This unparalleled feature gives anyone the ability to preserve their art in any form as an NFT and prove its authenticity on any platform such as the Tencent wallet or browser within the blockchain.
When we talk about NFTs, what we essentially mean are non-fungible tokens. And really, you know, the key to that, why it's so important, is because fungible assets have always been valuable to our society, right? A dollar from Beneficial State Bank is the same as a dollar from Bank of the West, a dollar from Amalgamated Bank. So if I get a dollar, the same dollars, I can change them around. Whereas with a non-fungible token, an NFT, they're not interchangeable and they're uniquely owned.
And that's really foreign for a lot of folks to say, well, how can that be money then? You know, if it's not real, like I can hold it in my hand, a dollar bill, a piece of gold, or whatever it might be. Well, an NFT being totally digital, being totally in so-called cyberspace, and may represent something in the tangible world, but still it's being exchanged intangibly. How can that be something that is money?
It's the sports ticket, it's the concert ticket where you bought the ticket to go to the event, you were at the event, and now you can show people you were there because they can go on your wallet online and see that, you know, oh, he was at that concert in 2021 when everything opened up, that first concert that happened.
What it represents to the beholder is something that gives the bearer validation by that beholder's eye.
Why is there any equity in brand, right? Like why does someone buy a Chanel bag or a Gucci bag? Well, it's that logo, right? It's the social signaling of it.
And it's so much fun. Every time there's a new media.
The copyright protection is very important.
And make a difference in the world.
Non-fungible token. I think you have opportunities like that. I don't really know a lot about it, and I just want to learn more and more about it, so I can be able to access whatever I have and all the memorabilia and all the stuff that I have that I feel like I can put on the platform and see what happens.
Dr. Rich, musician, author, and student of neurology, was invited by Tencent to sit down with some of LA's most influential artists, musicians, filmmakers, and athletes to talk about how NFTs can help them evolve their work to a higher level.
How do I think about NFT is in a sense how I consider art as a business. As an artist, I am a purist, but yet I push the limits, so there's a fine line. But I'm also a businessman because in order to understand and appreciate art, I understand the history of art, why Da Vinci, Michelangelo, all the way to Picasso, Van Gogh, even the current Banksy, why they're popular and why they're famous. It is the business side of it that makes sense because there's hundreds of thousands of artists worldwide, and only a very small percentage of them can possibly make it in the real world. And let's call it the real world because NFT to me is not considered the real world. Let's call it the matrix world of art. Whereas the real world art is you have the tangible sculpture that you can touch, and the canvas you can look and smell the glazing and the oil. So for most artists, they cannot ever make it in the real world of the art because it is such a incredibly competitive, harsh. You think the movie's bad of people going to Hollywood trying to be a movie star. This is about 1,000 times worse becoming an artist, and there's artists that unfortunately you won't become quote unquote famous or recognized until you're dead. So because of that, on the business side
Not a
of
very
it,
good business plan.
and that's why I think NFT on the matrix world of art
Yeah.
is really beneficial for the rest of the 99.9999% of the rest of the artists in the world, because they can make a difference and share their vision through NFT, because NFT is not really tangible. It is a business. When you come to the bottom line, it is a stock commodity of a digital art that does not exist, that you own, basically a deed to something that you will never actually see. But at the same time, it benefits the artists that cannot make it into the real world, because there's such a small percentage of galleries worldwide, and they cannot ever, even their existing of lifetime of the gallery, cannot exhibit all the artists. So for this NFT, I feel it's almost like a given gift in our modern contemporary world, that somehow, business-wise, will give these rest of the artists an opportunity to share their vision and potentially use it as a commodity to trade and hopefully become successful and make some money, because most artists unfortunately do not make money. You mentioned patrons. That's why in the real art world now, we do have patrons, but they're less than 1%. Hopefully now with the NFT, that becomes so much more expanded of patrons trading art commodity. The only thing they won't have is that the actual physical art to actually touch or smell or enjoy it anytime they want, or control of that artwork itself, but it's okay, there's a trade-off. And because of that, I'm actually feeling confident that the real art world is going to be intact still. It may be a little bit more of a rarity, but I don't think it'll be extinct, although I feel that it's going to be a lot tougher to compete with the NFT market, but yet at the same time, I think it's going to be much more desired, because it's going to be much more rare.
So William Tian from TianChat talks about the first space hotels, which are probably closer than we ever imagined.
I love that.
And 2025, I think he said today, the idea that payload is very expensive. Every ounce has to be thought of. But you could go to the Ramada Blue or Radisson Blue on your way to the moon, which will then be on the way to Mars. And who's showing this week? Who's showing next week? How can you walk into this space? Will we see a Daniel Wynn gallery on the first space hotels?
Let's see, Space Odyssey 2032, is that what it is? You know, I grew up with watching the Jetson, and I gotta tell you, that's always been fascinating to me. So can you imagine the Jetson flying to the moon and going to the Winslavin Fine Art Gallery there and see the work there? But maybe, you know, by flying there, they're going to see something on the computer, which is NFT, before they actually see the real thing. So to dream and to wish, I think, to answer your question, how I think about that, without dreams, your wishes won't come true. Without dreams, we would not be where we are now. To dream, to be in space, and to have an art gallery in space is great. I think without that dream, our wishes will not come to fruition.
There is a dark side to NFT.
Oh yes. You know, the physical art world right now is already the wild out west, and I mentioned earlier that even in the NFT digital world, that's beyond understanding of where it can go, because the dark side of that is
Matrix. It's not even
Matrix. Not even, you know, if I was Keanu Reeves, I would wake up and change a little bit, and here's what I would do. Because the digital format in the NFT world, you can reproduce it so easily, and it's 100% accurate, whereas in the physical art world, reproduction or forgery, you have experts that will testify if it's real or fake. In the NFT world, the digital is 100%. So the only thing that will validate if it's real or not is that certificate of deed, so to speak. My recommendation, like I said, if I was out of the matrix, I would say get a panel of experts that are involved, just like the SEC protecting the stock. We have we need someone in the NFT world, the digital world, that are expert that will basically endorse or verify. If somebody's questioning the authenticity of this NFT, they can then have a small fee to get it verified, and once it's verified, boom, it's legitimate. Because I'm concerned right now with the commodity exchange of the NFT, it is so much money that you will have, unfortunately, unscrupulous opportunists that would take take incredible advantage of that. I mean, 69 million, remember the people that just sold that piece? That's a lot of money. So you can see the opportunist right there is looking at this, and even if they're only making several hundred thousand or even several thousand, they would do that. So I believe that the dark side of it is really going to be very dark unless we have a panel of experts that is appointed by possibly even the real physical art world that are involved, that can then, like anything, has structure that can verify. Because I think verification is really significant in any artwork. We have verification, we have authenticators in the real physical art world to say that this is fake or real. Do we actually have that yet on the NFT digital world yet? No, and it's even actually worse because the digital reproduction is 100% of what it is. So how will we accurately verify and authenticate that? Because now we're not just talking about the copyright or even the art world itself, we're talking about money. We're talking about hundreds of thousands, if not even millions of dollars that are in transactional. So how do we do that? And that's my concern about the dark side. So hopefully we will evolve quickly with that.
It is a new technology, but like you say, anytime, I mean, let's completely strip away the terms.
It's a digital asset.
Any
right?
brand new technology, there's going to be a phase where there's higher risk, and it's going to morph into less risk, less risk, less risk, and then all of a sudden, like you say, like email, it's just part of daily life. So I do think this is new. So, I mean, I look at the NFT thing from 3 different perspectives. So there's the perspective of the creator, there's the perspective of, in my case, in the music case, it would be the, just to stay away from official terms, like the record label person. So in other words, there's a creator of a work, but then most likely, if there's any success in your career, you're involving a licensed representative type person. So in our case, the typical traditional record label. So you're either the creator and you're looking at pros and cons of NFTs, you're the record label, or like even if you're an artist or a painter, you probably have a representative.
The word media is between this and that.
And then there's a third category that would be like the consumer or the collector or the speculator, you know? So, you know, if you're a speculator, you're kind of not really emotionally involved. You're just looking at this
Commodity.
as,
Make me some money.
Should I put some money in IBM or should I put some money in Ethereum or one of, you know, Quincy's new NFT thing? So NFT pros and cons are really different from each of those perspectives. You know, whether you're the creator of it, whether you're the sort of record label version of it, or if you're the consumer speculator collector of it, you know? So I think you really have to, those are different enough perspectives that you almost have to kind of divide up the discussion that way.
I always stayed away from the existing structures of the art world, because to me it always just looked like it's like the real estate world. Galleries will basically take artists, and if they believe in their artwork, the potential of it, they will basically present it, have their friends buy it cheap, and then recycle it for a much higher price, you know. And you as a young artist, you think, oh my God, they picked me. But you don't know that the whole mechanism around you is to basically eat you alive, you know. So I always stayed away from those structures. That's why I worked hard to create my own gallery, create my own space for my art. So I'm not dependent on anyone else. I'm independent. I show it the way I want to show it, when I want to show it. I sell it the way I want to sell it. And there's no one between me and the person that's buying the artwork. And that's really important because the artwork comes with a story and a lecture and knowledge and experience. Where they go to the gallery, they don't get any of that. They get somebody that's basically negotiating with them the price. So I think it's important to free the artist from the mechanism of the real estate, of the art world. And then on top of that, if you can now generate authenticity with NFTs or that type of technology, then you have even more power, you know, to say, okay, I'm giving you this is authentic, and you can carry the value of it, even though it's not from that gallery or that person. So I think it opens the door to more independence and more control in creating value. Basically.
It affords every African the opportunity to own their voices and their spaces. Arts that were stolen from Nigeria many years ago, they were returning them back to Nigeria. And this is some of the things that have happened over the years. People steal Nigerian arts, they go put them up in their own library through which they make tons of money, and nothing ever goes back to the original creator of the content. I believe that NFT would put an end to that, because then every person can actually own who they are, because I believe that your art is your voice as well as your space, and NFT will afford Africa that.
Now is that this is a new frontier of ownership. It's really going to be what I think is the future of real estate, of ownership, of how people connect. It's a frontier. It's developing space that has a lot of potential.
And also the blockchain and NFT creates a world where you have history, again, like DNA, where you know who bought it, from who, when.
Now you have and own your value, and whether anyone calls you back or not, you can continue your life, because your creative expression is owned by you, controlled by you, protected. And it's a function of, okay, if you need me, if you want me, come on, let's do whatever it is that you want us to do together. So now it becomes a function of value exchange. It becomes relatively easier to trust, because you own your art, you own your talent, you own, and you can do whatever you like with it.
When it comes to the whole idea of an NFT, that you can own your copyright, your thing, and it's proven, and people can't take that from you, and you can decide what to do with the revenue.
You know, I like that. You know, this is what I've been doing for the majority of my career. So most of the work that I've done, I kept the royalties, I kept the copyrights and the publishing rights for that. Some projects that I've done for large studios, I couldn't keep the rights because the studio insisted on buying the music out and having the ownership of the music as part of the movie. And the studio had to pay much more money to me, because I cannot exploit that music in the future. I cannot license it to Apple Computer for a commercial for a new iPhone. And so most of my work have been with independent cinema, independent producers, and so I negotiated in all my contracts that I license my music to the producers for usage in that project, but I kept the rights. I kept the rights to all my music, except for few exceptions. For example, when I worked for 20th Century Fox on a big Power Rangers movie, I didn't keep the rights to the music, but I got paid well.
Where the NFTs are so interesting is for independent musicians and that vast amount of musicians who are in the course of building their career. They're on the rise, so to speak. Imagine you say to someone, I have this band's album from the 1990s. And then they say, oh yeah, I saw them on Saturday Night Live last week. I got their album too. And you think, oh, that's not the same. But it is the same. An album is an album, but not with an NFT. This is where it becomes super interesting. Because if you owned the album from the 1990s, you're on the ground floor. You have a unique copy of that piece. And so for independent and emerging artists, there's the opportunity to create NFTs, let's say, digital album art, three-dimensional objects, moments, video moments of
backstage bloopers?
Yeah, it could be, sure, of course, or it could be moments in the concert, that guitar solo or that, any kind of moment. You could create, there's no real limit to the things you could create. And your fans can own those things, those particular items. So it's a great opportunity for for an artist to create these pieces, and then you maybe make a, 1,000 copies of this digital art, or 100 signed copies and this kind of thing. Well, it gets even more interesting on the NFTs, because as the creator, you can participate in perpetuity in the secondary market sales. So let's say
So even the little guy can get a real cut.
Well, yeah, there's that for sure. So everyone can get their cut, right? The engineers, the producers, all the backup singers, whoever's on the record. But even better, you can create something and sell it for $10. And then your career progresses a little bit, and somebody sells that for $1,000. And somebody then sells it later for $100,000.
And then if you die, someone bumps you off.
Exactly, yeah. And then it really gets valuable. So as you know, in the normal market, if you sell an album as a creator, you make a few bucks. And if somebody then sells that album to someone else, you don't get a penny. With the NFTs, you always participate. So you can create product out of the creativity of your creativity. You create a thing. And then you just go about the business of being awesome. You develop your career, whether that's through social media or other projects or whatever you do, you build your career. And the value of your original NFT that you created continues to grow because you've been growing in your career. And you continue to participate in every secondary sale in perpetuity. And that's an amazing opportunity.
It's the immediate future of independent film financing, in my thought, and what it's doing with the art world right now, particularly like the very commercial art world. For example, I have a good friend of mine who's an outstanding artist, but also outstanding director, who does everything that's in the Avengers and the Marvel universe, and he does the NFTs in that world. And in the idea of taking that sort of Comic-Con fanboy sort of fan base, and in the way art is working through the NFT on that at a very high price level, and something that millions of people are paying attention to, as opposed to something very obscure. And so taking that same thought in the film space, where you do something of a superhero type movie outside of what's under a studio system, and you can do it independently because you're taking that intellectual property, you're creating, say, the artwork of the actor, actress in that suit, in the uniform, and that is NFT number one. Then it's behind the scenes, then it's the casting process, and these are individual NFTs that you would have called behind the scenes sequences on a DVD extra, but now they're one-of-a-kind things that are proprietary to that buyer of those, and that just builds up into the movie. And so if you're utilizing revenues from that for the movie, and then artist is or movie is getting a royalty from it as well, it's great for everybody. And then you still have the ability to make the movie itself going through traditional distribution means on top of it. So it's kind of a win-win for everyone. That's fun for the audience out there. I mean, something that they're very much a part of the entire process. And anyway, it just makes it much more exciting, I think. Absolutely. The part that's the hard work of grinding through the prep process becomes a lot more exciting.
And if I want to, I can include in that also certain messages and things that will only go to the person that bought it. Right? So it's not only that you buy an image, I can include whatever I want within that file, within those that will give you other things that will only be there for the person that's buying it. So it could be a poem, it could be a lecture, it could be any kind of knowledge or other images, other things that
only they have.
Yeah, only the person that purchased it can now open that and see that. So it's not just what you see on the surface. So there's other layers to it that I think are even more important. And here in this case, it's only between the artist and the person buying it. Because otherwise the gallerist and all the people in the middle will also have access to that. And usually they are not people that will appreciate that. They won't see the value of that.
Well, I'm thinking also about the possibility of NFTs even in lyrics for music, and or a bit of a song, that there may be some possibilities there, because International Arts Association promotes all areas of the arts and the artists, so it works in all these different areas. and you know, all the services, the patrons, the venues, all of it comes together in a hub.
It's a whole new world, one that seems to change and get more and more interesting, almost not even a daily basis, it's like an hourly basis. There's new things that come up. But what it does from like a movie artist perspective, there's a streamlining of all the minutia that's around them. It's like traditional sales companies, distributors, where there's all these filters that go from the artist being compensated for certain things, and now it's just direct to them, and it continues to be direct to them. If that NFT continues to trade, they continue to get a significant royalty off of it, and so it's fantastic for the artist. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so what that can do to the movie business, it's like, if you're set up that way, who wouldn't want to be in that movie?
Right, exactly.
What director doesn't want to do that way? It's like,
right.
It becomes not only the coolest thing, the most lucrative thing, and you're not subject to the controls you would have through, say, the studios or the large companies, where it's like you're doing this character and it needs to be this way. You have a little bit more freedom because the audience is with you as you develop these things and you're adapting to it. And you know, the smart filmmakers are going to make sure they're happy, and then that's part of the revenue that comes in, and there you go. And so it becomes where the investment world and the creative world kind of come together, and it's all moving in a direction where everybody wins.
You know, I want to think of that world. It's so out there, but it's right here in front of us to actually make that happen. I think it would be great, man, if I can be able to do that, to be able to create a lot of more millionaires, give back to my community, give back to the world, to do something good. It'd be amazing, no question about it. It'd be amazing.
His survey proof our work are on stake, honing the labor and fruit of the make. The word of the world's most reliable pledger is still not as strong as distributed ledger. It's nifty what no one can take. You cannot take my non-fungible token. You cannot take my non-fungible token. Careers will be made and hearts will be broken, but no one can take a non-fungible token away. From the depth of the deep and the width of the wide, from the ocean of option on creation's tide, there's a song that we live from the music inside. That expression, confession, aggression, of oppression, impression, obsession, possession, even intercession.